Hello, everybody. I'm Steve Peterson.
And I'm Jack Hinkle.
Well, this is awkward. Should we introduce our guest now, or should we?
Or just pretend that they are not there for the next 30-second spiel.
Yeah, okay,
and just
don't look. You have two eyeballs.
You gotta split them.
Don't
go
look at the person. Like, go lizard eye. Go lizard eye. Go gecko. Go gecko.
Go gecko. That's like Inspector
Go
Gadgets.
gecko. So I'm Steve Peterson. This is Jack Hinkle, and we're glad to have you back on Chops. I feel like, do you want to rock? It's like, okay.
He's going.
I can hold that nicer if you want. If you want the stand, if it's really weirding you out.
Just put it in the coffee mug.
Or you can do the, let's explore the other. You could do the sales professional, who's like kind of the pinky up.
Pinky up.
Okay.
Or you could do like the politician who's got the one hand on the side doing the Steve Peterson.
So what I'm going to do is we're cutting taxes. Cutting taxes low. There
it is.
Okay. So welcome back to Chops Podcast. The podcast that talks about the trifecta, Jack.
Okay, if you're listening like on Apple, like you just need to go to YouTube or watch.
Yeah,
like
because
that
this
whole
doesn't
bit.
make
this
sense.
doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, what do we talk about on here?
We talk about knowing your content, knowing your teaching, and knowing your students.
Boom.
And then that's what is kind of birthed out of. But we had a dream or a vision that we would invite people on the podcast that were not music educators. So we've had educators that were not in music, but then also people that were not in teaching, not in education. And today is that day.
Please welcome to Chops Podcast.
Can you do it in that BOA thing? Okay, go.
Joining us from Goshen, Indiana, please welcome Grant Longenbaugh.
Yeah! Grant Longenbaugh.
Thank you.
This is Grant Longenbaugh. Welcome, Grant.
Thank you.
Also known as Granolio. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
Granolio. I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
Granolio.
Cool.
Instagram.
It's his
profile.
Instagram.
Oh, yeah. At Granolio. Okay.
So Grant is a...
Also my AOL Instant Messenger profile. That'll age me real
The
quick.
year is-
Do you still have that?
Year is
No.
1992. Okay.
1990.
No, it's 98.
Okay, 98. Okay.
98.
So Grant is a resident of Goshen, Indiana.
Mhm.
It's the town... Well, Jack lives there, too.
I do live in
Two,
Goshen. Well, I
three-
used to live, my old apartment was like a block away from Janus Motorcycles.
And
So
now your new house is like 400 yards from my house.
That's
Sometimes
true.
I'll get in
isn't
the attic and I'll look over at your house.
it? Sometimes I've been in the attic and you've never noticed me there.
Didn't you guys grow up in the same neighborhood, though?
Very close.
Wait, where'd you grow up?
Wildwood. And you grew up in Carrington.
No, I meant like
No,
Spring
no.
River, like
Oh, yeah.
Fawn.
No.
No.
It
No.
was Carrington.
No, it's Fireside.
Fireside. How about that?
Yeah,
Oh my
Fireside.
gosh.
Wait, you were Wildwood.
Yeah.
And I'm Meadowwood, if anybody cares.
Well, that's where
Nice.
my grandpa lives in Meadowwood.
That's right.
There you go. It's
Mrs. Huber, my first grade teacher.
Mrs. Who?
Mary Jane Huber.
Does she still live there?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so Grant is a longtime friend, right? We're friends, and we're all friends. So I knew Grant back from the early 2000s, late 1990s, and going back a while. Grant was is a 2005 graduate of Concord Band, and Grant played trumpet.
Yep.
And Grant was in the jazz band.
That's it.
And Grant had an older sister that was in the band, and he had mom and dad that were involved in the music program and did travel with us. And so got to know Grant, and
Then I worked with the marching band for a while.
worked for the marching
Grant was
band.
one of my summer staff
Yep.
teachers.
Oh, my
When
gosh.
little Jack was learning how to play the trumpet in March, and poor Grant had to figure out how to get my feet in time.
That's
and-
fine. That's okay.
Yeah.
I was also the fine arts academic.
Oh, yeah, the
coach for a
fine
while.
arts
Oh, that's
academic
right.
That was
coach.
a lot of fun, actually. Missed
I
that.
remember the students really liked having you around.
Yeah.
That was cool.
It was cool.
Fine Arts Academic. That's right. Yep.
So let's go back a little bit. Like, Grant, tell us a little bit about yourself for the people back there at home. Kind of fast forward through your childhood and raising up and schooling and just kind of like how you got to where you're
Elevator
today.
pitch sort of thing.
Yes,
Great.
sell it.
Okay.
Think reels. Think
Grant
top notch.
Longenbaugh was born in Dunlap, Indiana. Think what?
Wait,
Think
Dunlap.
TikTok? Yeah.
Think TikTok reels. Okay,
Okay,
go.
great. Grant Longenbaugh was born in Greens Fork, Indiana, in 1986, and then he moved.
Wait, where?
Where?
Greens Fork, Indiana.
Greens Fork?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were born in Goshen.
Nope.
What's Greens Fork?
It was outside of Richmond, and my dad owned a vet practice there, and then we moved promptly to Elkhart, Indiana, or Goshen, Indiana, when I was 18 months old. And sorry, my phone was just going off. I thought sorry, cut that part. Sorry, TikTok. That'll go viral. I saw this awesome TikTok today of a business owner, and it was totally canned, but he was like, the shot is of him like taking these pictures of his wine glass and of the spaghetti and the outside of it was an Italian restaurant owner.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the real clip, and he's got the camera turned around the whole time, so he's like, he's like tongue sticking out, and he's like, got the stank face on, trying to get the right shot of the spaghetti, and it went viral because it was so like authentic and sweet, and everybody's like, I want to go eat that guy's spaghetti. That's what I have to say about that. So I was born in Greens Fork, Indiana, moved to Goshen, Dunlap area. My dad ran a veterinary practice here for 35 years.
Wow.
Somewhere around there. Mom was a speech pathologist, had an older sister. I am married. I have a daughter and a dog and a wife. That's the married part. Live in Goshen. And I can't believe that I have all those things. I'm a really lucky guy. And I feel very, when people come from, so I'm the president of Janus Motorcycles, which is a small manufacturer of motorcycles, handcrafted motorcycles in Goshen, Indiana. And we have people literally come in from all over the country to try out our motorcycles. And they say, why do you do it in Goshen? And I tell them what our rent is, and then their jaw drops a little bit, and then I tell them how happy I am, and then they smile or something. But it's a really great place to live. Jack can corroborate. It's
And your spot is nice.
oh, it's cool.
It's like a great spot of town.
Yep.
It's right by
an
the coffee
EPA
shop.
Brownfield, but no,
A
just kidding,
what?
Not anymore.
Okay.
But it used to be a dry cleaner. So
Yeah. So
we had to clean up.
okay. So say it again. The name of the place that
Yep.
you are the president of is
Janus Motorcycles.
Janus Motorcycles.
Which, by the way, you designed the logo, right?
Depends on which logo. Yeah, but some of them.
The one
yeah.
you were wearing on your vest.
Oh, that is a collaboration with Richard and me and Brian Worledge, who's another neighbor of yours. But
Oh, I'll have to meet him someday.
he's a orthodox iconographer, and he helped design our wreath logo.
Oh, nice.
How about that?
You've seen the logo, right?
Yeah.
You know how clever that is? It's two J's,
Yeah.
which Janus is like the Roman god, like the
The two-faced god.
two-faced god. So it's a J and a J that's backwards, and it makes an M. Janus
Oh, I never knew
Motorcycles.
that. Okay, there it is.
Isn't that genius?
And there's like the face here and the face there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And the Roman god Janus looks to the past and the future, which is awesome for like an old school retro looking.
So tell us
Oh,
about.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so tell
awesome.
us what is Janus Motorcycles? What is the what's the brand? What's the vibe?
We about that. It's we say that our motorcycles are time machines. So people get on our motorcycles because they want to travel through time. They want their bikes to look old. They want to escape reality in some way. They want to kind of, experience something simpler.
Wow.
And that's
And how would you-
honestly like just listening to our customers. They're like, I get on this because it makes me feel like I'm 18 again.
And so
I
what
get
do
on
they?
this because it feels like I'm in 1930 again. I get on this because I want to leave my phone at home. I get on this because I want to,
A little hit of nostalgia.
yeah, exactly.
So what do they look like for the audience out there?
They
Like,
look like, if you've ever seen Lawrence of Arabia, they look like the motorcycle he crashes in the first scene.
Okay, look it up on YouTube,
Yeah,
everybody.
exactly. Maybe you could get a clip of that. Who's the producer here? Is there a video
Jack.
media producer? Or
Jack
something?
is
We
the
can,
Depends who
technical
you ask.
director.
Yep.
I'm the communications director.
great.
He does a lot
Um,
more work. Okay.
But old Bruff Superiors and Vincent motorcycles and old Harleys, that's kind of the vibe. And with some modern accoutrement, like fuel injection or disc brakes, so you can actually stop. You don't have to be Lawrence of Arabia. You don't have to launch over a dune, and that's the end of the movie sort of thing. But that's the look.
Wonderful.
I never thought I would get into motorcycles, honestly.
Right, because your thing, like growing up, like post high school, was into the arts.
Yeah.
Right.
I went to art school on I went to University of Michigan for 1 year on an art scholarship. Then I transferred to Calvin College. Thought I was going to go pre-seminary, and I did not do that. Instead, I sell motorcycles. Went to the dark side. It's like that scene in Emperor's New Groove where the angel's on the one side and then the devil's on the other shoulder. He's like, I'll take you the way that rocks.
Yeah. So now you sell motorcycles.
Now I sell motorcycles. Yeah.
Okay. So we thought it would be fun to have Grant on here because Grant is a great friend and he's got a great mind and a great soul and has a lot of wisdom. And we've had a lot of fun chewing over things over the years, right?
Yep.
Talking about life, about relationships, and about teaching, and about jazz, and a little bit about business and just leadership, right?
Yep.
And we've had a lot of late nights just kind of talking about stuff, or like van rides, going to things, and just talking about chewing on stuff. So we thought it would be a really good fit to have you come in here and just kind of share some things about, all that kind of stuff. So
For sure.
your job right now, so we could then launch into some questions about it, but your day-to-day job right now, what are you doing?
My title is the president of Janus Motorcycles, and it is not as sexy as it sounds.
Yep.
But the president, typically in an organization our size, which is about 20 to 25 people, means that he or she has managers, separate departments under him. So it's not like my old title used to be the general manager. That's another way to say the same thing. It looks better when you're trying to sell dealerships or people motorcycles. If you're the president, it's more marketing than anything, I would say. But I help run daily operations and try to keep an eye on where we're headed. So I have a great colleague, Jamie, who's our operations manager, and I say, if you can help us win the day and the week, I can win the month and the year. Like if we can work together, and she thinks on a day and weekly schedule, so that I can think about how's the month looking, how's the year looking, and to like maybe zoom out a little bit more on that. Richard, our CEO, typically a CEO wants to be like, this is what I want us to be in 20 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So it's really hard to do all those things. If you guys have ever, of course you have. It's hard to do your job and also work on your job.
Wow.
It would be really easy if you didn't have students. Your job would be very easy because you could get all your grading done, and you could lesson plan, and you could think about what your curriculum wanted to be. But then you have about 5 minutes a day to do that, and the rest of your day is your actual job, which is like doing the teaching thing. And my actual job is like selling the bikes thing and getting people to show up for work thing and helping folks with problems and fixing, whatever. That's part of the job.
So yeah, we've often said that our job would be so much easier if there weren't kids, right? We could be rolling. Okay, that's really great. Okay, so the day to day and the week by week to another colleague of yours. So she's playing like short ball.
Yeah.
And you're doing monthly, yearly, or quarterly and yearly.
Yeah, I try to and of course there's days where like today where you're just like fixing small stuff all day, but in general, like if you have time to step back, that's what I should be looking at. How we make the month and the year good. So, and we can make sure we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and then
there's
the CEO is looking at the long range forecast.
Yeah, or just like what kind of our vision, or to use kind of the corporate lingo, our vision and our mission. Like what do we want to accomplish as a company? So by 2030, we want to talk revenue numbers, we want to be making $30 million a year by 2030, and that means making about 1,200 motorcycles a year for us, 1,200 to 1,600 depending on the mix. But it's good to think about how we start to work backwards from that.
As
That's great.
Stephen Covey would say.
No, you're right.
You
Yeah.
begin with the end in
Yeah.
mind, and
I love that book. I mean, it's still.
he started on the last chapter.
He read it backwards. Mind thee with begin end.
Just read it backwards. Yeah. Okay. So. Okay. Sorry.
I'm read it backwards with Wizard of Oz going in the background. It all lines up.
Almost had a live spit take. Got to save the electronics. Okay.
If you read 7 Habits with Wizard of Oz playing backwards, what would be the equivalent to Led Zeppelin and Wizard of Oz, what would be the album that you or
No,
the movie
Pink
that you
Floyd.
play?
Isn't
oh,
it
yeah,
Pink-
Pink
okay,
Floyd,
yeah.
Pink Floyd and Wizard of Oz. What's the combo with Stephen Covey? If you play Stephen Covey backwards, what's the movie that you'd play with it? It would probably be like
Forrest Gump.
Organizing Your Closets 101 or something. I don't know. No, I'm under. It would be like, I don't know. I'm like, Remember the Titans, maybe something wholesome and
There you go.
inspirational. I don't know.
Okay, well, that something that we can all identify with would be marching band.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And jazz band.
and jazz band and concert band. So
We can talk about trumpets separately.
I have no idea about trumpets, but so the
Play high,
idea
don't
though,
fret.
like
Trumpet guys don't have any idea. Favorite trumpet
Wait,
meme
which-
is whenever anybody misses a note, they're like, "What's wrong with this?"
Yeah. Look at the trumpet first, dude. There was an oboe player that sat in front of me in college that whenever they would biff like a note, they would go. You seen that one, dude? That I would get me every time. 'Cause it was like,
that
oh
dude
my
is 30
gosh.
years older. I went to school with him too.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's still one there that
Yep.
they just like picked it up from the person in next to them.
What is
Yeah,
wrong with this?
I know.
thing?
What do you expect to see when you actually turn and look at your oboe? Like a
Yeah, there's a,
a
demon
gerbil
sticking out.
gerbil
Yeah,
tail
yeah,
coming
like,
out of it.
sorry,
Like, oh
sorry,
my
I'll pay rent
gosh, I
now,
couldn't
bye.
find that thing. Where'd it go?
I thought Grant was gonna go with the trumpet player handshake. You know that one?
Mm-mm.
Hi, I'm better than you.
Nice. I like it. You are actually.
Okay, so like
Still play.
we've been involved in teaching before, but just like it kind of makes me think about like marching band and band camp. We've all
Right,
been a
totally.
part of that.
Yep.
So
Yep.
some of us, like if you show up and you're a junior staff person, maybe like a college student, that you're kind of doing the hour by hour, day by day thing, and you're just like the person in the trenches, right? You're getting all the X's and O's, the
You missed
thing.
that note.
You
missed
got
that
the
step.
fingers
Yeah.
going and the hands
Left
going
foot,
and the
come on.
left foot, right foot, all this kind of stuff, and body posture, right?
Yeah.
And then you maybe had a person an adult, a director that was like working with your section, that was kind of thinking, the week by month kind of thing. And then you have the CEO, which at the time, like we all had worked with Scott Spradling,
And
and
they actually do have the 30,000 foot view, which is like a fun visual. It's not 30,000.
That's
feet, but
true.
It's like
It's at
Right.
least like 50. Yeah.
So it's the marching band director is on a tower, but like taking the entire scope in, and maybe that person isn't dialed into as much quote unquote day-to-day operations, even though they are. But
What was the phrase you said? You told your employee do the
Oh, yeah.
week.
win the day and the week so that we can win the month and the year. Just like
That's like a
so
really
much of that is done on time frame stuff, like rather than like you can think about the different axes or whatever of like organizational wide or like in the marching band. It's probably not like a time like you don't have a monthly P&L or something that you're like, oh, let's get to October. You do have a scorecard at the end, like did we do good or
Yeah.
not? But
But just like that frame of mind, like to say you like little things versus big things, short times versus long frame of time. I mean that thing in a marching band, or just like honestly any career, any profession has something that looks like that. It's a good way
Yeah,
to break
totally.
it down.
So, what is the way that you all communicate that? Like, is that something that you're using on some kind of long-term spreadsheet, or you have it on a poster, or it's just
well, I'll tell you
how does that?
one good example this morning.
Okay.
We are looking at our month. It's February 5th.
Yep, all day.
We're because we're dealing with some roadblocks and whatever. We were at a production meeting Monday morning, and the production staff was there. All the management and leadership folks were there, and they said, "Look, we need to figure out what to do with last bikes weeks because last week's bikes because we were installing other stuff in that." I said, "I'll just tell you what I want the end of the month to look like. I don't know what we want how we want to figure it out, but whether or not it's some overtime or some extra days or something, but it'd be awesome if we could take last bikes weeks and just spread it out. And we get to the end of the month and it's like nothing had happened." So that's a good example of saying like, okay, so how do we get into the filigree of that and say, well, that means that so-and-so needs to be doing this week and we move that over there and everybody's involved in that. But
Gotcha.
I think in some ways it creates it at its best, which we are still working on that. Everybody's always, I also tell everybody at Janus that we're still becoming. There's always there's still that kind of growth level of, you shouldn't have expected us to arrive yet because we're still growing. And I don't think anybody really arrives. When you're a big company, you have big company problems. but it creates I want to be able to trust folks to make those decisions. And if everybody's, to bring up the marching band idea, there's times when you're like on the ground and you're like working with the kid and you're like, I'm not gonna tell it. I know they're chewing on it right now. I'm not gonna scream at them. And then down from the tower comes Bobby, what are you doing? And you're like, man. You let them have a little win, or just like, let's just let that simmer. I kind of gave it to you. Like, you're way out of step. You don't know the music. You're whatever. Your dog.
You're a horrible person.
Yeah.
You dress funny.
Okay, I'm gonna let that soak in, and then like somebody from on high just tosses a lightning bolt onto it, and like, I'm gonna pile on, and it's no fault of their own, but like
Every band kid listening just went,
yeah,
yep,
that's the worst. You got the little flick and the punch. But you want to create a system where folks can be like, all right, I know what the end goal is. I'm gonna, and Grant trusts me, or whoever I'm working with trusts me to work out the details in the in between.
let them cook, right?
Yeah, let them cook. Absolutely. I say that too much, but it's true. Sometimes you just gotta let it cook.
So let's talk about when it's not cooking and you're on your team. And I know there may be some people from your team that roll up on this podcast, or they say, hey, Grant got tagged on this or something. But you've obviously you've learned a lot from being a small business owner.
Yep.
Like a lot.
Yeah.
And you've learned about
I still have a lot to learn too.
You have exceptional skills with relationships with people, like as far as being a great listener and very creative and very loyal.
Yep.
But how does that look like? You're working with your team of 5, 7, 10, 16 people, and you're looking at 2 months down the road, but you know that the step here, like,
it's not happening.
like talk about some catchphrases or just some strategies that you come back to.
Okay, I'm gonna answer that by telling another story. I took my dad to Cubs convention
Recently?
this year. Yeah, just
Like the Chicago Cubs, or just like Bear Cubs in
convention.
general?
Yeah, I love Cubs.
You're like, they're so cute.
Bear
all
babies. Yep.
Koala
Make
Cubs.
sure they're not
Lion,
hibernating.
lion
Chicago
Cubs.
What are you thinking? It's Chicago Cubs convention. They announced their new manager, Craig Counsell, who's a very intellectual, very cool guy to follow. Kind of the exact opposite of their old manager, which was like maybe football coach format. Okay. David Ross was like, strong jaw and like football coach. Nothing wrong with football coaches, but just a different kind of level of different take on things. Craig Counsell came, and it was a really cool question and answer, and somebody said, I don't know how we got into it, but he said, one of the things that finally unlocked my ability to really succeed as a manager was to just be myself. And let myself be myself, instead of trying to fit some mold or trying to be like Sparky Anderson or, Don Zimmer or any of these like old breed managers that you really look up to, or some of your own mentors. You just have to like let yourself be yourself, because then you can like get a lot farther with that. That doesn't mean you can't ever grow or change or put on the, bad cop hat if you need to. But that really stuck with me. And I think that at my best as a leader in the company, I kind of let that side of me cook. And what that means for me is relationship building and long-term thinking, and sometimes you just let that set for a second and instead of kind of more all fingers on everything all the time, micromanagement. I do not like to do that, and I don't think that works, and I don't think you might get more quicker, but you maybe sacrifice the long game on that. You know what I mean?
That's a big point.
And you don't encourage people to grow or to like figure it out for themselves. And one of my big challenges this year is working on delegating and kind of saying, you work on figuring that out. You Google that, but
this is like perfect for teaching. This is like completely paralleled. Like, a business owner, like you're talking about all these things that you're learning and like talking about how to kind of empower your employees, i.e. students, right? But like everything you're saying, like, I'm sure if there are teachers listening, they're like, oh, yeah, I remember doing this or not doing this. I want to do this more. Yeah. No, that's good.
And I'm not saying I'm baked in totally. I'm not half baked, but I'm not all the way baked. But like, it was a good, not fun or good or whatever. It was a great reminder to just say it's okay to just be yourself in your role and like let your own personality that you have almost 40 years of experience using kind of dictate some of how you interact with people and how you, because you're going to get farther that way than trying to be someone else. And likewise with your team members too. Everybody, you kind of want to put people in a place where they can like focus on their strengths like 80% of the time instead of like ragging on their weaknesses all the time. And like you can go a lot further if you say, look, you really stink at this thing, so we're going to put you over here and just go for it. Go run for it. You don't even have to worry about an email. Oh, you're not going to be a good emailer ever. Let's put you in this zone, and you're going to be our phone call guy. That is not a specific example about anything. That's hypothetical, but getting people where they can just like get a lot of traction and just like let them go for it.
And then letting yourself, allowing yourself to be yourself and use your own personality probably brings a lot more satisfaction and just less stress, because you don't, like you said, you have almost 40 years experience of being yourself. So you don't have to really think about what would Grant do. Like, you are Grant.
And you can be authentic,
Right.
And you
Right.
don't have to feel like you have to keep up an appearance.
Right. And we've talked about that, like with young teachers, and just with teaching as ourselves, like when we've been the most successful or just authentic is our authentic selves, right? And then when we've been in trouble is when we've tried to channel some other personality maybe that we've seen that is not us.
And then you like either implicitly or explicitly get called out for it, and you're just like, you're right, that was totally fake. Like,
right. It doesn't.
I got nothing on the other side of that one.
It doesn't work, and it's painful because you're always checking yourself.
Right.
But then when you're saying like you're checking yourself, that's not good.
Yeah. So, what was the original question? I don't remember where we started going on that.
How do we help out with management when teaching when things are not going well? And you brought up that story about being yourself. Be authentic.
One thing that has been in my brain the last several months is that it's good to set up it's good to establish those feedback loops very early on. Like when you hire somebody new, it's good to know that they can expect constructive feedback from you quickly, so that it's not soul crushing when you give it 8 years later, or so it's not a surprise or whatever, but it's just part of your you have a new opportunity to say, this is, you bring somebody new on the team, or you have a new classroom turnover, whatever, and everybody should get feedback so that they know to expect it. And you
set up the process.
Yeah, it's just a part
and
of
then
the
they're
process.
not blindsided or hurt.
Totally.
That's one thing that I think teachers do have easy, is that there is a clear teacher-student relationship, and the whole point of the job is help students get better, aka feedback, as you're talking about. But
some will take it and some won't, and that's
true. But like that's the status quo. But when you become an adult and you're working with other adults, it's like that level of hierarchy while you're still their boss or general manager. I mean, it's there, but it's trickier in some ways than with kids, because the adults are adults. There's no clear difference. So that's a really interesting thing to say, is just setting up that expectation that this is what we're doing. You will get feedback, and it's going to be okay, and that's part of the culture, because we want to get better.
Right. Yep. And I don't like getting. I mean, it's no fun to get slapped around a little bit.
But
So
you're not the leader that slaps around. You're the leader that says,
totally,
"Hey, check this out. Try this."
Here's what we have learned. I've been here for longer, or not, but generally I've been here longer than anybody else.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect. So that's just that's a establishment routine that you have in Janus.
It's been in my brain.
Sure.
We just brought on a new sales guy, and he's been doing awesome. Obviously, there's things where you're like, hey, this is I've been selling bikes here for 7 years. Here's one constructive point, and it's great. And it's, I sent, 2 hours ago, I overheard. I know, it's obvious who it is. I overheard him on the phone, and I sent him a little message afterwards. I was like, you should do this. You try this instead. When you think about starting another clause in a sentence, just take a breath. It's okay. And sometimes the customer will slow down, or that gives them a chance to, give an answer back, call and response sort of thing. But and he was like, "Hey, thanks." I could hear him through my wall. You know, it's like Office Space, but
Nice.
thanks, man. So that's what I have to say about that. I don't know.
Well, that kind of takes me to a question. Like, I'm kind of curious about like the culture at Janus. Like, I'm sure that, I mean, as you being like a very main integral part of that, like you've had a lot of being intentional and like setting that up the way you want it to. And I'm curious, like, what the culture, like how that looked at the beginning and like maybe how you morphed it and like what it is now and what you want it to be.
Yeah, that's a good question. We're still becoming. I mean, we still have a long way to go.
But that's part of the culture, right?
That's part of the culture.
That's
Part
good.
of the culture is it's not finished. We are not. There would be another iteration of Janus Motorcycles that could sell 100 motorcycles a year, and there could be 6 employees. That's not the goal with what we're doing. We want to be bigger. We don't want to be, Ford Motor Company. But since we're not finished, that's part of the culture. So there's always a sense of, I call it the sandbox of like, there's has to be a creative side of we can't put things in stone all the time. And sometimes we have to kind of have tough conversations about like, well, okay, how do we make this work? Or how do we kind of fit these pieces together? How do we market this or how do we have a tough conversation with the customer saying your bike's going to be 2 weeks longer because we need a little bit more time to design it, or, those sort of things. But it is still highly, by design, it's not set in stone. It's set in sand, maybe, at best.
Set in sand.
Yeah. And that's because we still want to grow. We've grown. Last year was actually our first down year. So there's some reflection about that. But by and large, we've grown 25% year over year since 2015.
It's incredible.
Means that turns out to a 12x, we've more than 10x. We've 12x'd since 2015, at least what our tax return shows. And we still have a lot more to go. The other part of that piece, which I tell team members to remind them, is that I don't want to create a culture that punishes bad behavior. I want to create a culture around the people that do awesome things. So I don't want to, say Bobby's, acting out again or whatever. Well, let's make a company-wide rule to stop Bobby from doing that. No, I want to make it a place where our all-stars love coming to work, where it's like, hey, I need an extra 2 hours to go because childcare fell through this afternoon, or I just need a day. Okay, or I'm going to work on this at night because I know I have better, like high flexibility to account for high performers rather than no flexibility to account for the times when we're like, well, why is, blank not doing the right thing? That kind of makes it messy sometimes because people are like, what's the structure here? The structure is we want the best team members to do their best work as often as possible. So
You're like thinking of your classroom
I know, I'm just
commandments, right?
Wow. Well, yeah,
sometimes
that's
not possible. Sometimes you have to have like structure, like you do have to have guardrails at some, like obviously, and I think maybe that's one of the ways that I do know that that's one of the ways that I could get better, even if it's like, okay, we have this giant field that we're going to play in, but this is the fence, and do not go past the fence, whatever that means hypothetically. But
Right.
that's really interesting.
Obviously, there's laws and rules about like illegal things that
Yes.
everybody knows
Right.
they shouldn't do, and general human decency that if you
Sure.
don't do that, then you need to whatever. But in general, when it comes to performance and like the work that we do, I want to reward the people that excel and give freedom to them to do it however they need to do it.
Well, and
That's probably
yeah.
kind of the creative background.
well, it's like that's a wonderful kind of awesome parallel to education in the classroom or the rehearsal room, and something that we work with every day, right? Like every day we're tinkering the system, and we have our non-negotiables, but
Yeah, Grant focuses on the public hug
yes,
and is not a public
Private.
or private
Right.
puncher.
right.
Grant's not a puncher.
There's basically 4 ways you can deal with a problem, right? You can do it privately,
Yep.
publicly. You can encourage what we call a hug,
Yep.
or
Oh, I'm
you
sorry.
can-
I said the punch word.
you said punch.
Sorry. redacted. Nudge. Nudge.
Right. But you can
Yeah.
do those you can do those publicly, like, great job, Grant.
Yep.
Great. Or why are you such an idiot? You know, like that. Or take you,
Yep.
you know, in the hallway and
Public hug, private nudge.
right, right. And you're wanting to let your people grow by fostering and encouraging those behaviors and that kind of excellence in your
And the hugs aren't meaningless. You're saying like, look, you're doing this really well. So yeah, if you need that 2 extra hours,
Yep.
like we'll make it work.
Yep.
Because you have the end in mind of like what you want it to be in that vision. I mean, obviously, like a workplace can be more
the
flexible.
culture,
than a
and
school.
you talked about that. Like you want the culture to be right.
Right. Yep.
And you know, somebody very close to me, who happens to be my son,
Mm-hmm.
spent a summer with you all,
Mm-hmm.
and as a marketing student,
Probably felt like the Wild West to him because I was just like, you go get whatever you can.
right?
Go out and do
But
it. Show me what you got, basically.
I just, you know, and he is working in a totally different size company now.
Yep.
And we had a pretty long discussion just like last week, and he was talking about like, I really enjoyed my time at Janus, because I think he was just like asking about you or something. Is like how that summer was, and I'm sure part of it was he wasn't like totally swamped, but he really appreciated the culture of the people that he was working with.
Yep.
And just the temperature and kind of how it felt
Mm-hmm.
doing that work. He really appreciated that. And I think being in a larger business
Yeah.
where there's more systems in place and bureaucracy,
Yep.
right?
There's, the other side of the bureaucracy sword is safety. You know, you can know exactly where you stand all the time, and you know that there's security and kind of safety in that. The other side of the sword of, you know, freedom or independence is a lot of responsibility, or a lot of maybe risk. Not risk, but I don't know what the right word for that is, but you know, what we do say with a lot of freedom at Janus, you also have to take a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible for whatever projects or the customers you're taking care of. If you want to have more freedom, you have to show a lot of responsibility to make sure that people get taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's always a changing scale. Like, I'm not perfect at that either. Sometimes you drop the ball with somebody, but you have to take responsibility. You have to take back the responsibility and say, hey, I dropped the ball with that. What can I do for you? So, I mean, it's probably not it won't be that way for forever at Janus, hopefully, or maybe not, but as we grow, I think a giant organization has to have some of that structure in place, or else it's just
Yeah.
Yes.
is anarchy, or, you know, falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that, I mean, like you see, you know, business books or whatever will say, like, here's a new business concept of the horizontal, you know, business structure, and there's like 3 managers and 800 employees, and they're like, nah, it didn't work. It's a little crazy. Like, doesn't happen. You got to have some of the best businesses in the world have like an insane amount of quote unquote middle management, like Toyota, who we look up to a lot at Janus. They don't have any more than 7 people. Have a every direct report has no more than 7 people under them.
Okay.
Wow.
So if there's like an assembly floor making, you know, Toyota Sienna minivans, like every 7 people has 1 direct report, and 1 direct report does not have any more than whatever the actual number is, but just to keep like things
Then that
tight.
builds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one more point I wanted to talk about with that. The other side of that kind of freedom sort of things is it's like sometimes it's a little crazy. Sometimes it's stressful. It's a high stress environment. We're trying to grow a lot. As an example, like one of the big, you know, startup manufacturers just went bankrupt on Friday, and they lost like $73 million, and we're all like, oh my. I've never even looked at that amount of money sideways, but
Right.
you know, they had 130 senior management members, and we have maybe 3, you know, but it's just like riding a motorcycle. It's a little precarious starting a motorcycle company and trying to make it work. So that's kind of a wild ride. I don't know. It's fun. I mean, it's fun to look back at that and also realize the table stakes are what they are, so that you're not like beating yourself up. You're playing a hard piece of music. So it's like, no wonder you like, sometimes you miss it. It's giant steps, not
Right.
oats, peas, beans.
It's giant steps, not oats, peas, beans. That would be another one.
Or Little Brown Jug. Oh, I love that tune. Shirley Scott, Little Brown Jug.
Boom, 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 boom,
big
boom,
band
boom,
behind
boom,
you guys
boom,
listen to
boom, no. Grant also has a lot of knowledge about jazz.
Let's talk jazz.
He's got a lot of knowledge about jazz. He is a vinyl collector.
Yep.
You've put a lot of time in.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in different circles that have encouraged you to listen to jazz, from high school to college to professional too, right?
Yep. My sister told me the first 2 jazz albums she told me to get. Great points on a map. Charles Mingus and Maynard Ferguson.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Those
cool.
are my first two jazz albums.
Nice.
That's cool.
And then I got Dave Brubeck Time Out, which is like, honestly, like,
Mm-hmm.
soul and kind of free swinging. And then there's like Loverboy, Maynard Ferguson, heavy hitter. And then there's like little scientist Dave Brubeck over here. That also likes
If
to
you're
play the
listening
piano
in the car, Grant is pointing out
sorry.
different spots on a 2-dimensional plane. What were the XY? Like, is it like
Passion and science, maybe.
passion to science? Okay, that was
And
the
then,
Y,
like,
and then the X is
Soul man or white guy.
I was gonna say cheap to classy, like somewhere in there.
Right.
Maynard Ferguson, God love him, but he's the sleaze bag of the bunch.
Yeah,
and,
like, a little cheap.
Charles Mingus is like the spiritual leader, and
Yeah.
Dave Brubeck is the analytical guy.
He's in the lab.
4 points of the jazz compass.
Yeah. I remember one time we were sitting listening to some jazz, and I know that one of your favorites is Oscar Peterson, and that has special place in your heart. But like listening to Miles Davis and listening to some Oscar Peterson, and then I remember one night getting into some gospel jazz like late night, and we were cranking that stuff outside, and maybe it was something kind of bluesy, and you said something that was kind of that kind of stayed with me, and then I thought it was kind of fun. It's like it's like when you listen to like African American like gospel music, or like people playing the blues, and you listen to the audience, like when it's live, not in a studio, right? And you hear people kind of egging on the performers, or amening the performers, or responding to something, or being very silent at something, is because like when you listen to something like the blues, it's so familiar that everybody knows where it's going. That's why everybody likes the blues, is because you know where it's going.
I get chills just thinking about
Right, because you know where it's going.
Get in the head.
Right. Let's go back. But it doesn't. But then also when it departs and it goes somewhere else, like you're going away, but then you know that payoff is coming back.
And
it's
you know
like,
that people get when they go away because they're like,
exactly.
You're that guy in the audience. It's like,
No,
But then
and
they
that's-
throw down that like massive lick, and then you're like, oh, there it
he's
is. There it
back,
is.
right? And
Yeah.
there's like such a
Kind of like golf.
it's
It's the one swing keeps coming back.
I can't identify with that,
Yep.
but yeah, that it's that familiarity, and it's like that kind of. I think that's kind of a fun story or image, is because you could be a seasoned jazz professional, and you could also be an 18-year-old in a high school jazz band, or you could be a 42-year-old mother of 2, soccer mom, and that you could still have that anticipation, and that you know what's coming, and then you know that something else didn't really quite pan out, but then you know when it arrived. And there's that common language that our ears in the Western world have been conditioned to.
It's like the archetypal stories too. You want to watch the hero, the hero's journey sort of story. You want to people love a Luke Skywalker sort of story arc because you know what's going to happen at the end.
And you know there's going to be some pain in the middle,
totally,
but the
payoff.
pain creates the payoff.
Yeah.
It's the blues.
That's the blues.
Yep.
Yeah, we were just playing a piece today. We're playing Every Day I Have the Blues, like trying to recreate Joe Williams with the Count Basie Orchestra. And I'm like, tell me about the blues. And they're like, it's sad.
Did they say it like that?
It's sad.
It is sad, Mr. Peterson.
I believe that the blues are sad. I've been programmed.
Let me research. Okay. And I said, yeah, but what's this tune sound like right now? And they're like, happy. I said, yeah, it's the blues. It's like, yeah, everybody's thinking it's the blues, but like there's happy blues too. You know, like that's like the yin, the yang, the major, the minor, right? That's the sweet and the salty kind of going along with the blues. So we just kind of had fun with that today.
One thing that I'd say, not to bring it back about me, but I say at work a lot, just because it's hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. And that's kind of the sweet and the salty spot is like you got to hang in that with that stretched out space a little bit.
Because you're hard doesn't mean you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, because you got to means you're right in that. In motorcycling, there's a term called the friction zone, which is right when the clutch starts to engage with the transmission, and that's when you can actually start going. If you just like pop the clutch and twist the throttle, you're going to stall out the bike. But you get into that friction zone where you just feel it grab just a little bit. That's how you ride a motorcycle. And when you go learn how to ride a motorcycle, you're in on the parking lot, and you will spend 3 hours. The instructor will be like, everybody's just going, just like if you're not watching, I'm just like lunging forward just a little bit because that's how you feel like the bike starts to go. And you got to like ease off the clutch just a little bit, and you got to ease on the throttle just a little bit.
There's that dance.
Yep, and you got to stay in that friction zone. If you pop it too hard, you stall the bike, and if you don't pull out the clutch at all, you have no purchase, and you're just like.
Sounds like swing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Pulling the stretching the taffy.
Yep. There you go. There for real.
What else do you want to know about Oscar Peterson?
What?
Did you watch that video I sent to you with Andre Previn and Oscar?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Yeah, so cool. Have you seen that?
I
It's
don't
this
think so.
awesome, like 1 hour YouTube interview with Andre Previn, the classical pianist and
Yes.
conductor, interviewing Oscar
Yes.
Peterson. That's so cool.
Yeah,
It's
it
like
is.
a master class, and
Yeah.
and Oscar's just like, that guy's seen some stuff. Oscar. That's another why I love him so much. Is you're like, that guy is just like, he feels the blues. He knows it. You can tell that his life didn't always go the way he wanted it to. He probably had some horrible nights.
Right.
And, just like you can see it on his face, and you can hear it with how he talks about how he plays music.
Right. But then also there's like this warmth and like
Oh, totally.
genteelness.
That's
you
what
know,
keeps
like-
it coming back.
Right. And he's got this charm, the way he talks, and like this delicate feel on the
Yep.
keys that is like divine. Right.
Annie was sitting. My daughter Annie, she's 2, was sitting at the piano the other day. She's going, ba ba da ba da ba da.
She was?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, she's practicing her Oscar Peterson.
There you go.
Got
Good
that.
for her.
Ba, ba, ba,
2 years
ba, ba.
old. Got that.
Yep.
She'll
Got
be a
that-
guest in
Yeah, she will.
pretty
got that
soon.
going.
I don't think so. That's her favorite line. No. Annie, we go to bed? No, I don't think so.
Oh, so she'd fit right in at high school.
Oh, totally.
Hey, you want to walk? Make sure you walk a little faster tomorrow to get to school on time. No, I'm good.
Hey,
Krista-
she's answering though. That's
yeah,
pretty
it's
good.
true. Yeah, she's.
Oh, that's true.
That's
That's
true.
true.
She
No,
might be a little
that's
high
true.
flyer.
Yeah, if she were like a typical teenager, you'd be like, Annie, you want to do that? She'd be like,
Huh?
Yep.
what?
Bruh, what's that?
Can you get your fork out? Wait, what?
Wait,
What? Where's my fork?
Don't wait what me, bro.
Okay, one more thing.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna shut it down. One of my
Can I
favorite.
ask one question after that?
Gosh!
Sorry.
I
Yeah.
told you, Jack, this was going to be a menace.
Oh, I thought you just called him Jack. No,
That's
Grant.
Yeah, of course you can, Grant.
Great.
Okay, no. One of my favorite quotes from Grant Longenbaugh
Ooh.
is "Breeze in the trees."
Yep.
Breeze in the
The
trees.
trees.
And there was a time that you talked about that, and like you relocated to a different part of the country, and like totally had a physical landscape change
Yep.
and a career landscape change
Yep.
for a limited amount of time,
Yep.
and kind of came back, just like part 2, right?
Yep.
And I
Started
think
my life.
started your life part 2, like
two, yeah.
reboot. So, I think about
Breeze in
that.
the Trees is
Talk about that.
from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. The book. Have you guys read that book?
Yes,
If not,
it's a good one. It's
It's like a 70s classic, right?
mhm.
we'll put it on the chops.
Has all
recommended
these,
reading.
like,
you should. It'd be
small chapters like teacher talk to us about love or talk to us about children. Or
What's the
talk
name of the
to
book again? What's it
cool.
called?
Prophet.
The Prophet
Khalil-
by.
Khalil Gibran.
Mhm.
Okay.
And he says
before
something.
my mom passed away, she left that with one of her friends to say, "Give this to Grant after I pass away." So it's a dear book to my heart. And there's a chapter in there about marriage or love. I can't remember which one, but it said that this is getting woo-woo, but a best partnership is two trees drinking from the same river, and that there's space in between your branches. So the more clever way to say that is breeze in the trees. But the motorcycle term is breeze in your knees.
They're not good. Breeze in the trees, but just like a space and time for like cleansing or just resetting and
Breeze in the trees.
I like that.
I like it.
I've used that quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, I have. I got that. Okay, what's your question? Green, large, size
Yeah, we
10.
can do a rapid fire.
Okay, go
What's
ahead.
the biggest challenge you guys have had this year, and what was kind of the way through it?
Biggest challenge.
Teaching or otherwise? I'll be honest with you, it was a challenging year for us at work. And it was challenging just to, so it's, did you guys, I'm sure everybody did, sorry, I'm going
It's good.
in different ways, that Duke women's basketball player, or the women's basketball coach, she was just like, you just need to, she was giving a pep talk to her team, and she's like, it is never going to get easier, you just need to handle hard better. When you were a senior in high school.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, when you were a senior in high school. I'm surprised that, the superintendent didn't show it at staff meeting or something. I know that my wife, was served it by other whatever. But I keep on thinking about that because she's like, you get to senior year of high school and you're like, well, as soon as finals are done, then I'll be able to focus on this. As soon as this is done, I'll be able to focus on this. And you get to college and you're
Fake
like, as soon
news.
as I get through this, then I'll be able to think about this. And he's like, she says, it's never going to get easier. You just get stronger, or not, but you get to handle hard better. And
That's
been
growing
like
up,
my
man.
little mantra for the last couple years. Like I can get a little broader shoulders, Chicago style. Like just do it. Chicago is a city with big shoulders, and
There
that's
you go.
what I'm
Well, yeah.
embodying. So
Okay. Well, I'll go.
Yep.
Go.
We might say the same thing, but I don't know.
I don't think so.
Well, educationally speaking, like classroom, school day kind of thing, I think the thing that is very fatiguing has been wanting to be able to push the students, but observing little or no motion. And seeing the promise and seeing the light that is like burning somewhere in there, and there's like little or no movement. And now it manifests itself in different ways, and it could be assignments, it could be just like playing their instrument, it could be testing, it could be attendance, but it's just sometimes that inertia, just the is just puzzling to me. And I think it's exhausting because I don't have a solution, and I think of myself as a fairly like energetic in the classroom and resourceful and like yeah, and like I come at them like a lot of different ways, sneak attack and fully in the front and just like just in being funny or being mean or just trying to like how do you help someone get that? And one of my battle cries is like, look, if you're a senior, like you have me for 4 more months. And not that that's what it's about, but I'm just saying I'm not gonna. You want to take on this? No, but like I'm not gonna remind you in the middle of June what's going on. This is it. Okay, you can come back to me and ask me advice anytime in the rest of your life, but as far as like me giving you feedback and asking you to like cook on this or get going on this, that's kind of coming to an end, and hopefully somebody else will do that. But it's just like I'm gonna give you all that I can. But you're going to have to take it. And non-movement can be exhausting. No, that non-music is exhausting. Just play something.
You're playing drums and you're like, come on, guys.
Come on. Yeah. It's fun. Play the music. Yep. What do you got, Jack?
This year had many little problems that arose. Not kids making poor choices, not like that, but just like logistical things that this thing didn't
Chinese
line up
water
here.
Torture. It's like a little drip every day.
I thought you were saying it's logistical. I was
No,
like,
yeah, no. It's like, hey,
it was just like a little bit of stuff,
Yep.
but it kept adding up and it kept like throwing off things that we needed to do. So I felt like every day there would be something that happened and I had to just go, okay, what's the solution? Like kind of like what you were talking about. Like I need to start at the end. Like where does this need to go and work backward?
Yep.
But it was just kind of constant. And there was just like a lot of it, like especially like in the fall. And I felt like really exhausted trying to figure that stuff out because like Steve has talked about this idea from we've done this on dance before. Who's that football coach? The 3 things.
Brian Kelly. No, no, Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz.
Lou
Yeah.
Holtz.
Lou
Like
Holtz.
3 things. 3 things are gonna like be
Brian Kelly,
No, Lou.
manufactured Southern accent.
No,
Yep.
okay. Yeah.
Lou Holtz. Like
Lou Holtz.
3 things are gonna
Lou
blow
Holtz.
up. We
Yeah.
got it, Steve. 3 things are gonna blow up in the season. And you have to plan on that happening. Okay, back this
Sorry,
one up. Wait,
okay,
we need to
okay.
go back to concert band
What
today.
is your solution? to this
Wait.
problem?
This is what happened in concert band today, dude. We're like trying to get going. I'm on the podium and I'm teaching.
And he was being really conscious about
One thing I need to you'll appreciate this. I need to work with this band about breeze in the trees. Like sitting still. And it's really just for the sake of like focus and like be comfortable in the silence and be comfortable sitting still. And I cut him off and Steve's Bluetooth is just and he like runs across the room to like shut it off.
Yeah.
And then
Bick,
I'm
whoop,
like, yeah. And then I'm like, okay. And I'm like purposely silent and I'm like trying to get them to be with me. Okay, F concert. And right as my hands go
F
up,
concert band. I mean, F concert.
yeah. yeah.
Steve takes the piano bench and just goes like moving it across, and I'm just like,
So I mean, what you're saying is the biggest challenge of the last year
it's Steve Peterson. Oh my! It was.
your source of chaos.
And I go, my bad, bro.
He's like, this is classic, and I'm like, that was how we got class started.
Okay.
It was very challenging for me to not want to like rip my hair out for all these moments in November, like just trying to go, okay. And to keep that away from the kids, because
Yeah.
it's not the kids' fault and it's not the kids' problem, but it is our combined effort to create the solution. Like I'm drafting up the plan in my office and I'm like disseminating it to them in the rehearsal field. And my kids are like really good. Like if I say, hey, come here. Okay, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're doing. And I don't like bringing the kids into that, but like we have to, like, especially like in marching band when plans change, like you have to get that going. So I thought I did an okay job of keeping them out of it, but like the self-preservation, like coming back to it every day when this problem would happen, I need to move these things around. And it was kind of a logistical, like personnel thing that was going on, but I just wanted to make it right and I wanted to make it painless and I wanted to make it efficient because we've all been around those moments when they're not.
It's like you want to, like, you have this little like sanctuary that you want to be a creative spot for people, and then you're running full steam around it, just like get out of here, get out of here, get out of here.
Yes,
It's like
yes.
Crows are like flying out of it.
Yeah, you're playing defense.
And it's like
Yeah, there.
total like slaughterhouse.
Yeah,
outside
like
of it.
and you're
Is that
given like one fly swatter.
Like, yeah, they're like, kids, be quiet in here and like make creative, beautiful things right now. And they're like, oh god, you gotta, fire in the hole, mortar, all that stuff outside the wall, and it like leaks over sometimes. Yeah.
That was my challenge. So we made it through. It worked, but like Steve's talking about the exhaustion and stuff. I'm just like movement. It's just like coming in every day and being fresh and being like,
It's another
Here's
day
what
of
we're doing.
problems.
yes.
You gotta
So
just batten down the hatches for that. Sometimes
You
just
do.
get like
You
a
do.
stretch of a couple years. It's just like there's gonna be more new problems today.
and we're in the business of problems. You
Yeah.
know, like that's teaching. And I kind of like, maybe this sounds a hot take, but like I like that it's a part of my job
Yeah.
because it doesn't mess me up
This
when
is
it
job
happens.
security.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that too. Yeah.
That's true. But I was
A
okay.
mentor remind me of that managers solve problems. So if you don't want to be a manager,
I was at Staples today because I needed to drop off an Amazon return, and
Whose problem is that, Jack? Is that my
Amazon's
problem?
because I ordered the red and they shipped me the wrong color. But I was at Staples and I'm like watching like this dude like trying to make copies and he's just like not coming out right. So he's getting like the employees and they're all like they're kind of like getting frustrated because that happens. And I did think like I'm really fortunate that I expect problems in my day to day.
Yeah.
Maybe that's backwards, but I was looking at that. I'm
No.
like, wow, like I am fortunate that
Well,
like
and you're getting stronger creating or
Yeah.
solving problems.
yeah.
And just that means that you're in the friction zone and you're doing it. You're like
The
Friction zone.
climbing the hill.
The friction zone with
Grant
Grant
Longenbaugh.
Longenbaugh. I was going between that or becoming.
Aw.
But isn't that
What?
already somebody's? Isn't that Michelle Obama's
I was
book?
yes. I was-
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't say becoming with Grant Long because she's
No.
sorry.
Okay.
Okay, friction zone.
I like that one better. too.
Friction zone.
Yeah, friction zone. Good.
Feels like I
FZ
should have,
with
like maybe like
GL.
a ZZ Top at the end of it.
You want to put that in?
Yeah.
I'll just put in your vocal overlay.
Great.
So it'll go. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of at the time of our Chopcast,
Chopcast. Hashtag Chops Nation.
and we have a little promo because we want you to make sure that you follow us on Spotify and or Apple Podcast.
And over YouTube. You did?
Yes.
I did. Of course I did.
And
Baller.
And
we're
TikTok.
yes, we're on
Yes.
TikTok and Instagram on chops_podcast. So click subscribe and like. Keep the if you have a question, we do have. Oh, I did get another nice response last week. I didn't tell you about it, but it has I have another idea for an episode. It's perfect.
From your mom. She's like, oh, Steve. you
She
did a
doesn't
great
send emails,
job.
does she?
Why?
You know who you should have on it? Do you remember?
From Sue.
I love Sue.
Sent from my iPhone.
Thank you, Sue. That is not a.
I
it's
don't
actually
think
not a Sue hot
I don't think my parents are listening.
Got it. Sounds good.
I think so. I don't think so. But Grant Longenbaugh,
Love you guys.
love you too, and glad you're here.
And you should check out Janus Motorcycles.
Yeah.
You want to plug your socials?
Yeah, janusmotorcycles.com. Grantolio on Instagram.
Boom.
Grant Longenbaugh 8474638, something like that on LinkedIn.
What about the AIM?
Oh, Grantolio 5.
AOL Instant Messenger?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect.
Dang.
Hit him up.
So, on behalf of Steve Peterson,
You say Grant Longenbaugh.
Grant Longenbaugh.
And Jack Hinkle.
we're out of here.
See ya.
See ya.